Ray Clark. Atelier Ray Clark. Vicky Grub. Sit on this.
Ladies and gentlemen and everyone in between, welcome to the Festival of Upholstery and welcome to Sit on This. If you've not heard of us before, that's all right. Vicky and I have a podcast and we dive deep into the world of upholstery, craft, running a small business, from fabric choices to fascinating stories behind all the chairs that we all sit on. Today we have a real treat for you. We're joined by the incredible Heather Porter, a well-travelled upholsterer and accredited conservator. Is that fair to say the word conservator? Yes, right.
Yes. Yeah.
Who's worked in some of the most prestigious museums and with some of the best upholsterers across the USA and Europe. Now, Heather bridges the gap between traditional upholstery and delicate art of conservation, making sure history isn't just preserved, but celebrated. We'll be talking about her global journey, the difference between traditional and conservation upholstery, and some of the amazing projects you're tackling along the way. So, without further ado, welcome, Heather Porter.
Thank you very much.
Is that all right?
Yeah, that was quite the introduction.
We like to put people on the spot.
So, Heather, before we get into the details of what a conservator actually is, because actually from my point of view, I'd not really heard of it before. I obviously know about traditional and modern, but the intricacies of conservation is actually a story within itself. But if we walked into your teenage bedroom, would we have seen any signs of conservation or upholstery as a conservator?
No.
Okay.
Would you have been able to even walk into your teenage bedroom?
You'd have seen piles of homework in various places, yeah. But I suppose I'd probably grown out of it by this point. But when I was quite a small child, I like constructing things. So model things, bits of wood that slot together to make a dinosaur.
Lego?
Lego, loved Lego.
Meccano?
It was never Meccano, but I had the Lego.
Right.
All sorts of sort of wooden structures, paper structures, anything you can start with flat and put together in a 3D form. Loved all that. And then I had grandparents with garages and bits of wood, so there was always tinkering around with wood in the shed, and so there was always a three-dimensional aspect to the things that I enjoyed doing.
So were you quite a sort of creative child? Was it lots of crafts, or was it? Yeah, it was quite academic.
No, it was more creative things. Yeah, to me, there's a satisfaction with starting from nothing and ending up with a product. So, reading books didn't really get me to a product, so that wasn't really very interesting.
What kind of period are we talking about? Your early years were like the 70s or the 80s?
Yes.
I'm just going around about way. I have no idea, and it's rude to ask a lady her age, isn't it?
Usually,
so I'm just trying to circumvent it. Do you know what I mean?
Subtly done, Ray. Subtly done. Yeah. I was probably making wooden models in the early 80s, put it that way. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. But teenage years, all I was interested in at school was art and design and woodwork.
Is that what you wanted to do then after college?
I wanted to, as a Saturday treat, my dad would take me to building sites. And so I was very used to kind of just walking around building sites. And I wanted to do things with wood. So at that time, I thought I would, be a chippy and I'd be installing...
A carpenter.
And do architrave and skirting boards. And then I realised that actually the lumps of wood are quite heavy. And I've always been a bit skinny. And it's possibly not the best working environment. So I was like, oh dear, maybe not. So then I thought I'd be a cabinet maker. So from school, then I went off to college to learn cabinet making.
Where was that?
I had by then realised that High Wycombe was the centre of the furniture world.
Yeah.
So there was two courses, good courses at that time. One was at High Wycombe and one was at London Met.
Right. Yeah.
And I don't know why. You just look at the syllabus, don't you? And to me, I was leaning more to High Wycombe. So I remember filling out the college application forms in the sixth form at college, and you have to put down a list of places you want to go. They said, where do you want to go? I said, High Wycombe. And then I handed the paper back. And she said, oh, you can't just put down 1. And I said, well, why not? That's where I want to go. And she said, well, what happens if you don't get in? I was like, I don't know. I didn't even contemplated that.
Very determined.
I just wanted to go.
We'll delve a little bit more, I think, into conservation shortly. But like, when you started life as a workshop upholsterer, do you remember the very first piece you upholstered? I'm just curious about that.
To be honest...
And was it a total disaster or a success?
I can't remember. It was my first employed job was with Greg Cupid Jones at Cottage Upholstery.
Yeah.
So
shouts out to Gregory Cupid Jones.
So whether he remembers the first thing he gave me and whether it was a disaster or not, I don't know.
Oh, we'll have to ask him.
You have to ask, yeah. But I do remember I was taught while I was at college. I was taught upholstery by David James.
Oh wow! Yeah.
The upholstery, the furniture restoration course at Bucks was making in the first year and restoration in the second 2 years. Alongside that, every student learned upholstery, and our tutor was David James.
Is that quite common to learn with cabinetry making upholstery?
Yeah, at that time, there was a fine art course as well. They did designing and making, but I can't design anything, so that wasn't a course for me. I just wanted to be taught how to do things.
Yeah.
So that's why I did the course I did. But so I remember working with David on a headboard, and he said, I suppose I was in a second year or something, and he said, he got these 2 headboards, and would I like to do one with him? And I was like, hell yes.
I mean, I've heard about the legend. Many of us have the books. Yeah. What was it actually like? Actually, being taught by David.
It was a long time ago. So we're talking about 1994 now. I've got to remember back to, but the overall memory of David, he was just so kind, and he was really encouraging. Whereas the furniture guy wasn't. So I mean, the power of just having a decent teacher to introduce you to something, and then sort of, encourage you on your way. Yeah, really. Yeah. And I remember saying to him, I don't really like the wood stuff, David. And I said, do you think I can be good at this upholstery stuff? And he said, well, he probably kind of went, oh. But, he said, well, if you work hard at it and, keep going, then maybe. And I was like, well, it was just that kind of level of kindness that was really nice to have when you're starting off from nothing.
So did you go on then, you left college and went on and worked in an upholstery workshop with Greg?
Yeah.
That was your first job?
That was the first job, yeah.
And so was he paying you for that, or was that just...
Yeah.
He was?
Get a little brown paper envelope at the end of every week with cash inside.
So you were paid per job, were you? Or
no, I was an hourly.
So you were paid properly employed.
When I first started, I was on hourly wages.
Yeah.
But I was so slow. He put me then onto job wages, and then I was still so slow. He realised that I probably wasn't to be able to earn a living doing that, so he put me back on hourly wages.
Wow. Okay. So did you? Did you develop your kind of love for conservation from that, or how did you then move on into?
Yeah, that happened quite quickly, and it wasn't. I didn't know where I was going to go with it, but the thought process was. I found it quite frustrating when furniture would come in, nice pieces. I mean, it was all traditional work, but. The first thing you do is kind of rip most things off. You're looking at jute webbing and base cloth.
Rip down, you mean?
Yeah, rip down. So, most things are saggy. You can't sell them like that. And we did a lot of work for dealers, and people in their houses don't want saggy seats. So, to get to the webs, the first thing you do is take everything off, and then you start again. And it didn't take many months, really. And I was, 21, 22 at the time. And I just thought, I can't just spend the rest of my life with a ripping chisel. Just putting back things that I've just removed. I mean, it just didn't make any sense to me. Mm-hmm. So then I started to sort of say this to friends, there was a bit of frustration about just the job as it was. And then someone says, you want to be a conservator? And I was like, I don't even know what that is. So that was when I was introduced to conservation. So, yeah. So there was a journey from there. And then someone said...
Let's pretend like I don't know a thing about conservation, don't know a thing about traditional upholstery. Can you explain to me the difference between traditional and conservation upholstery, like you're telling a 10-year-old?
Well, that was a thing that I learned. Kind of, it's complicated, but that was a journey that in my.
Remember,
thinking,
I'm 10 years old.
Yeah, that thinking that went on. So after I'd kind of sort of within the trade thought, I just want to go and learn something. I then applied for and went to the Royal College of Art, Victoria and Albert Museum course in conservation, which is packed up now. But on that course, you work alongside conservators at the V&A. So it's a bit of a baptism by fire, really.
Sorry, just to interrupt, was that like a paid course? So like going to university, you had to pay for?
There were tuition fees to be paid then.
Yeah.
But it's not like it was now. It was like, whatever it was, £3,500 a year or something.
Yeah.
So I went there with a preconceived idea of what I wanted to learn and what I was going to learn. And what I did learn was completely different.
Right.
So when you asked what's the difference between conservation and restoration, there's different things you can do on a kind of long arm of the wedge, really. So the skinny end of the wedge would be for the 10-year-old. Upholstery conservation would be how to conserve things that you have.
Right.
So a chair comes with upholstery on it that's damaged, you repair it. That's upholstery conservation. And then all the way at the other end is conservation upholstery. So you've just twisted the words around.
Right.
So you're doing upholstery, but in a conservation way. Mm-hmm. And that would be for museum display usually. You're not interested because it's not applicable for comfort or feel or those things.
Or function.
Or function, yeah. Because in museums, things just sit on a plinth and you just go and look at it and say, well, that looks nice.
Yeah, so it's just aesthetic.
Yeah, so it's sort of a bit smoke and mirrorsy, really.
But you're still repairing the silk, to the way
that would be upholstery conservation. Right, upholstery restoration would be adding new silk.
Right, so okay.
So sometimes you would do that end because you've got something actually which is in perfectly good condition, but unsuitable for display. Mm-hmm. So sometimes things can be treated because they are damaged and some things treated because they are not suitable.
Right.
So the classic example would be if you've got an 18th century chair with very obviously 20th century reupholstery. So it's the wrong shape, it's the wrong cover. That all then needs to be removed and then replaced with something that is more historically accurate.
So that's really interesting. So you have to really learn the shapes throughout the history.
Yes.
To really, know exactly how to make
it look convincing
for that period.
Yeah. And the other part of the complexity of that is you're not doing it with traditional materials in a traditional way.
Okay.
Because conservators, there's lots of rules and regulations we have to work by, but one of them is basically don't damage the object. And you can't upholster a frame without damaging it. Every time you put a tack in something, you make a hole.
Yeah, really hard into it is basically
whacking and tacking is a no-go. So that's not allowed. Whacking and tacking, not so much.
So what are you using then instead of tacks?
Sometimes you can make subframes. So the frame might just be a skinny little thing that sits on top of the seat rails.
Okay.
And if you want to do traditional upholstery, you then put all the upholstery onto that frame instead of onto the chair rails.
Oh, wow.
But then, of course, you've got the side borders because the fabric comes around and down.
Yeah.
So you can cover the rails with different conservation materials, and then you can either stitch things on or you can glue things on.
Mm-hmm. What type of glues do you use? I'm just curious.
I have used adhesives in the past. I don't tend to use them anymore, but you can use hot melt glue or there's a film of adhesive, like sticky back plastic, really, and you iron it on.
Oh wow!
Peel the top off. Yeah, you peel the top off and you iron the thing on top.
So I'm thinking when you're talking like conservation materials, this is going to be like traditional horsehair or traditional this, but it's like no, it's just like a bit of glue.
No, museums hate horsehair because it attracts moth.
Yes, it does.
So for a conservation treatment, horsehair is out.
Oh wow, really?
Yeah. Yeah.
But even though they're like the chair's normally behind like a piece of glass that like an insect probably couldn't penetrate.
Well, you'd be surprised where they can
I
get.
suppose they're still moving it through somewhere, aren't they?
And sometimes it's not necessarily, because if you've made new upholstery with something on it that it has no historical importance, it's just brand new that you've made as a conservator. It's not even that object that you're worried about. It's the damn moth that flies off and then starts nibbling something over there, which you do care about. So it's the cross-contamination.
I mean, I have to say, I had a big moth problem in my studio this summer. And sorry, just to digress. I was just digressing. And it was a real pain to get rid of. You know, I was like taking all the horsehair out and spraying everything down.
So what's the best treatment for moths now?
Well, you can freeze them, you can heat them.
One of my
I'm going to run around my studio with a freeze gun.
Yeah, she actually,
what do you mean?
before she bought, you can put the whole thing in the freezer for like 2 weeks. And then,
I see.
Yeah, it kills all the eggs.
Exactly that, yeah.
But I love Leanne Treadwell's method.
Shout out to Leanne.
Yeah, she actually... puts her horsehair into these like vacuum bags and then takes all the air out and then stores them like that. I just think that's great.
That blew my mind when I heard that.
Yeah.
Do you vacuum pack a lot of things in your...
No, because you need to change the oxygen to another gas to suffocate them.
Oh,
so it's not just that you take the oxygen out, so you add another gas
well, you would know more about this.
To kill them off, because you have to kill them at all stages of the life cycle. So you might kill the fluttery ones, but you need to kill the little eggs as well.
Right.
It's a dilemma.
It costs a fortune. I mean,
it's a studio dilemma.
It costs a lot of money for big collections because if you've got a house or a room, then you're not dealing with one thing.
With an infestation.
Heather, you've like travelled the world, as I understand it, in your pursuit of knowledge, working with some fantastic upholsterers and institutions along the way. You've mentioned a few already, Gregory and obviously David James. Can you take us a bit more on that journey?
Yeah, it's been a long one. How long have you got?
Well, I don't know.
Got at least another 35 minutes.
Okay, go.
So go.
I think what I've tried to do mainly is pick out people that I want to learn specific things from, or people who have a reputation that might then be able to teach me something. Mm-hmm. So it's quite a selfish way of learning, really. It's just like, what do I want from these people?
I think
and
this
off
is a
you go.
theme for you, though, since you were a teenager. This is a theme.
Well, it's all about me.
No, you've targeted things. The High Wycombe, right, I'm going there. And so this is what you did. You were actually, right, where can I work in the world? And who is the best? And where can I, let's target them.
Yeah, it's quite a strategic decision making. It sort of fell apart in recent years, but the early years there was a strategy to it. So when I was at the V&A, for 3 years I worked in the textile conservation studio, and they taught me textile conservation of furnishing textiles. So I pretty much exclusively did upholstery conservation there. They would give me a museum object that was damaged, and they would teach me then how to repair it.
Right.
But the missing part was I also wanted to make these what's called non-intrusive systems, which is a posh way of saying upholstery that comes on and off, and it's not fixed.
Right.
And because you're not allowed to use horsehair, you have to then exchange that with a conservation acceptable grade material. And one of those things is ethafoam.
Is what, sorry?
Ethafoam. Ethafoam. It's just a plank of plastic with, it's a foam, foamed plastic, but it's stable. So, we have a list of materials that we know how they age, and those are the ones we use. And if there's materials that we know age badly, we don't use those.
And because the piece of furniture is not functional, it's purely display purposes. I see. All right.
So to learn that technique, I needed to go to Colonial Williamsburg in America and work with Roy Graves, because he was the man. So I contacted him in the second year of my course at the V&A, and they said, I need to do a summer internship somewhere, and I want to do it with you. So I went there for 2 months.
So tell us about him. What does he specialise in, and what's
he was he still is very clever guy. He went to Colonial Williamsburg, I think, as an art handler back in the decades and decades ago,
early in the 70s.
He's just retired, and he's in his 70s. So I think he was there for like 55 years or something.
Oh wow, yeah,
long time. But he ended up in the furniture conservation studio, and he kind of looking around thinking, he was kind of putting the dots together, thinking, oh, there's this upholstery work that nobody's doing. And he said, he saw the whacking and tacking problem, and he said, well, there must be a way to build these things, structures.
Right.
So with his 3D mind, and then he was looking to his colleagues who were electrical engineers, and they were using sheet copper to make ductwork with. And he thought, well, that's just a sheet of metal with a bend in it. I can bend that around a chair rail. So
wow,
and then that's how you cover it. So you put a sheet of copper on the top and bend it around the sides, and there you go. You've got a little cap that goes on and off. Oh. And then you need the foam on the top. So learned the profiles, made the foam.
So and he was doing that for museums, was he?
He was doing it for Colonial Williamsburg, which is a great fun place if you ever want to go on holiday.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a reconstructed 18th century town.
Where is this?
Where is this? Well, it's Williamsburg was the capital of Virginia, which was the main colony at the time. Yeah, in the 18th century, we're talking.
Yeah.
So that town, but some of those buildings are still there.
Oh, okay.
And in the 1920s, the local vicar walked up and down the road, and he thought, well, there's quite a lot of 18th century buildings still here. Wouldn't it be nice if we, turned it into a town?
Yeah.
So he asked John D. Rockefeller if he would fund the project, and that turned into this now 3 blocks wide and 1 mile long 18th century town with character interpreters, shops.
Yeah.
The whole thing. You go into the building, it's all painted in the colours, floorboards on the floor, tricorn hat hanging on the peg.
Yeah. So that's a full-time job for him, doing all the...
For there, yeah.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, and there's a museum attached and all these things. So off I went to work with Leroy.
And were you there long? How long were you there?
Well, I was there for the summer, and then he said, oh, could you stay? Because we've got a project coming up and we think you'd be... And I said, well, I can't really stay because I've got an MA to finish. So I finished the MA and then I went back. Yeah. So I got a visa, a 3-year visa for a 1-year internship. And then that internship was extended to 2 years. So I worked with Leroy for 2 years.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
You still fell within the visa requirements. That's cool.
Yeah.
So you've worked in the US and the UK.
Yeah. That's it. Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Okay.
Where else did you go in the US? Because you went...
Well, that visa, when that internship ran out, the visa then could be extended. So I just... found a long list of the people from all these books and strategically went through the list and said, here I am, I've got a visa, I've got another year, can I come and work with you? And most didn't reply. One wrote back and said, thanks, but no. And one said, oh, very convenient timing because I've just had a project land on my desk which I don't have time to do. Do you want to do that?
So you're like please correct me if I'm wrong, a journeyman conservator at that point in time?
Well, in the museum world, I was an intern level at that stage. So I could do the work, but I needed the supervision.
Right.
So that would be an internship. So then this project came up and they said, it was Nancy Britton who worked at the Met in New York, who was the upholstery conservator at the Met. And she said, do you want this job? It's at Lyndhurst, which is a Gothic mansion somewhere up the Hudson River, 22 pieces of furniture, some of the original furnishings from the 1840s, plus later additions. And I said, yes. And she said, well, do you want to come and, look at the project first? Do you want to look at the place? And I said, oh, yeah, okay. That maybe that would be sensible.
The confidence in your 20s.
So, what do I know? Exactly. I was still in my 20s. Oh, yes. Somebody offers you something, you just say yes. You think about it later.
Sit on this.
Ray, I've got a confession to make. I once dated a tool.
Now, are we talking heartbreak or hardware?
Staple gun, my BEA. Honestly, it's been more reliable than most people I've ever worked with.
Oh, totally. Mine's taking a beating over the years. Still fires like day one. No jams, no weird noises, just solid work.
I use 71 Series 421 staple gun most days. But I've also got the long nose 436 for those awkward bits. You just know it's going to deliver clean staples every time.
And it doesn't wear arm out either, especially when you're working on a big frame or doing repeat jobs.
Powerful, reliable, and never goes to me mid-project. Legendary and dependable.
Bit like me, really.
Only difference is my BEA doesn't moan when I drop it.
Oh, are we still talking about tools here? I've got feelings,
So if you're tired of unreliable tools and dodgy knockoff staple guns and want to upgrade your kit, now's the time.
Head to the link in the show notes and you'll get 10% off your first purchase on guns and staples using the code SITONTHIS10.
BEA staple guns. Powerful, precise, and honestly a lot easier to live with than some of the tools I've known.
Staple smart, sit on that. I'm just curious, right? I know I'm cutting across here and just diving in, but I've recently started working with doing a project for the Royal Museums in Greenwich. And the thing is, when you do work with museums, work has to go into quarantine. Is that the same kind of situation for you when you're conservating? When you're
it can do, yeah.
Does the work have to be in quarantine first before you can work on it, or do you work on it while it's in quarantine? Or
not so much now. Quarantine tends to be a barrier for pest control before things go in and out of the museum. So they tend to put things into quarantine when they come back to the museum.
Okay.
But that's for them. For them to worry about.
I was just curious about that part of the work. Well.
But the procedures involved in working for museums can turn a lot of people off.
Yeah.
It is very involved, and we haven't even started. And we haven't even started talking about paperwork and documentation yet, and that's a whole other side of it. Endless amounts of paperwork.
Is that like a process? So you have to basically log absolutely everything you're doing for a piece of furniture.
Yeah, for every single thing you do, you're given the object. You have to know what you're trying to achieve, why you're trying to achieve it, and can you achieve it ethically? Do you know what you're doing before you start? Because you can't just sort of get halfway through and then get stuck. And then you have to write what's called a condition report. So, list all the damages, and then a treatment proposal. So here's all the damage, and this is what I propose to do. That all gets then discussed and signed off.
Right.
Is that a new thing?
No.
Or has that been going on years and years and years?
Yeah, that's been going on for years
so
and years.
So that's really interesting. You could go back like 50, 100 years and you could actually find out information like that, could you?
That's the idea. Well, possibly
not that long.
It wasn't that good that long ago, but it's very thorough now, and that's exactly the point. When that object comes back for retreatment, what has happened to it in the past, and why did they do that? And what did they use? Crucially, what materials did they use? Because you're then having to think about, the retreatment of those things.
And I think, like, as an upholsterer as well, like learning the history behind something and actually being able to view documents that say this is exactly how this was put together.
Yeah, it can be really interesting.
Yeah, it would be.
They did what?
Yeah, they shoved straw in that. Yeah.
So, like, you've worked in the US and in the UK. Of the two countries, which has surprised you most in the way they approach conservation?
That is a good question, because there is a difference.
Okay.
There is a difference. In America, they have less quantity of stuff. We have more. Ours goes back further. But they are...
Is that just because of history?
Just because of history, because they're a much younger country.
Yeah.
So a lot of the things that they have came from other countries as well, but let's talk British. A lot of what they have, which is British, came from Britain.
Yeah.
They then added to it. So, the first lot of things were British made, and then British craftsmen. And then they start to be American made with British goods. Because things, materials weren't being woven there.
No.
So everything was shipped over. Okay. So when you look back through historic records and you look back at accounts and invoices, things are meticulously listed in the 18th century to how much they were, quantities of materials were used to make these things. Because I think they're, down to the, quarter of a yard of trim or something. So you can be very accurate with what was going on. But the difference is, so they tend to be a slightly more wary of putting old, fragile things out on display.
Right.
So they might retire things to storage a bit sooner than we would. And then they might then replace it with something that's a reproduction.
Oh, wow. Kind of feels wrong in a way. If you're going to a museum and you're only seeing reproductions and you're not seeing...
It's one way of viewing things. It depends what you're trying to show people. If you're trying to show people what something looked like originally, then the best way to do that is to make something that looks a bit newer. If you're trying to say to somebody, you're looking at something that is original, but it doesn't look like it did, then you're accepting that level of degradation. But it's very clearly not what it used to look like originally. But in the UK, if you're going around historic houses, you don't want that necessarily the whole interior to be new.
I don't get invited down around that many historic houses.
Well, you just pay your membership and go.
Really?
Next time you're down my way, I'll take you to
Really?
Yeah, that's what I used to do with my wages from Greg.
Name drop some really nice historic houses that like the general public might want to pop in and have a look at.
Well, there's different ones. I mean, I can't fail to recommend Knowle as a property, because when you learn about furniture history or upholstery history specifically, Knowle is the place to go and look at the biggest concentration ever of 17th century Royal Stuart furniture. So
I'm getting all excited.
You pay the entry fee and if you go and have a look.
Sounds good.
Yeah, it's not all in its original condition. It's some with alterations. But
do you find yourself going around places now, going that's not original, or do you
trained eye?
Yeah, have you got like an extreme trained eye for that now?
I can. Yeah, I probably notice things that other people don't see.
You're probably a nightmare to go around something. No, actually, I think you're probably really interesting. It's the opposite. I would love it.
Amongst upholsterers, like we all have our little tips and tricks that we enjoy employing when we're working on pieces. Like for instance, for me, like I'll just pick one out of the air. Like maybe taking a really sharp pencil line, sharp pencil, and dragging it across the grain of Hessian. Just to get that straight edge. I love that, and then just getting a nice sharp pen. I mean, in conservatories, there are little tips and tricks that you really enjoy. Can you think of one or two that you enjoy employing in the practice of your craft?
I'm a big. If you're talking about object examination, so having an object, I'll call it an object, which sounds like museum jargon, but never mind. We'll call it an object.
Yeah.
If you're just wanting to understand a little bit more about what it is that's in front of you, I'm a big fan of magnets. Because magnets pick up iron, obviously. So you can often find a tack through a cover with a magnet because it just, sticks wherever there's a tack. So
because you get different types of magnets as well, don't you?
Yeah, you can. I mean, if you've got a very fragile cover, you want to you don't want the strongest one in the world because it'll put a pressure sensitive indentation on the cover if it's that damaged. But just
the level of detail.
So you can just gently.
you can't damage anything. That's what I say. We can't damage anything. So
I've got some
can't
magnets in
poke
my
something with a
workshop
stick and leave a hole in
that
it.
would just ruin everything.
But brass nails are quite a good one for magnets. So as you know, brass nails are made of brass. Brass is not magnetic. And back in the day, the whole nail would be brass, the head and the shank.
Right.
So if you put your magnet on it, it falls off. And if you've got a modern nail, they are made on a steel pin. So obviously stick.
Yeah.
But if you can't tell whether you've got old ones or new ones, that is quite nice to know. And you can also tell maybe if there's been a bit of an alteration going on in the past with nails, because if you've got some which are non, yes, non, yes. That could indicate that they are the brass nails that have been taken off and some of the heads have fallen off and then someone soldered it to a new shank and then put it back in. So if you've got a mixture, it might indicate.
I'm getting Indiana Jones detective vibes. I'm getting chemistry vibes off here. Science. It's like amazing.
I think it's interesting, like the research side of it.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to be really interested in research, and it sounds like every time you went to a new job, like the starting point was the research for you. And I think that's what you've kind of showed us today, that if you are really interested in researching things, like the research side is perfect kind of fit with this job.
I think that's pretty much hit the nail on the head. Yeah, pardon the pun. Yes.
So I do cheesy puns like that all the time.
You do.
I love a good cheesy pun. Anyway.
That's exactly it. I spend a lot of time staring at tack holes, trying to figure out what's gone. Because if you upholster something and you take it off, every hole leaves a little bit of evidence. So if you're looking at a chair with edge rolls, you've got tack holes in a different place to a chair that's had a stitched edge put on it. And even with all the upholstery gone, you can then still look at the holes that remain.
So forgive me, do you answer to like a boss, like you get given an object and then you get, and are you just left to your own devices? Do you get stuck in, or do you get like, are you guided and controlled in some sort of way?
Yeah, there's always a client.
Right.
The conservator shouldn't be the decision maker.
Right.
The conservator is the person who does the work, but not the person who necessarily what were we going to do? So somebody else will say, what were we going to do? And a conservator is usually how we're going to do it. And those things need to come together. Sometimes the conservator can have very strong opinions and try and guide decision making, depending on, because we may have more of an understanding of the importance of bits and pieces.
But do you ever wish you could just get stuck in and just like cut out the...
No, those days are gone. No,
it's ripping it down, isn't
it?
Yeah,
it's not quite like when I get onto a piece that I'm really like into, like that's it. I'm getting stuck in. Because my kind of work has changed from conservation to the trade. So. When I've gone from conservation jobs for a while back into a trade job, because there are no jobs in the upholstery conservation. I got lucky, so I had a little run of work for a while. Yeah. And then when I came back to the UK, I was kind of done with the travelling around. So I thought, all right, I'm just going to buy a flat and I'm going to stay there, and I'm not going anywhere else. I was kind of burnt out with the moving. Yeah. I had a good time,
traveling,
I'd had a lovely time, but I was a bit more grown up and I'm done with that by then. So I sort of stayed put, and for that reason, then I was literally looking into the abyss with no job opportunities. So then I thought, well, what can I do still to make myself a better conservator in the future, hopefully? And the answer to that was go back to the trade, because by then I hadn't actually done any straightforward upholstery for a while. Right. But of course, then first day ripping chisel, and I'd spent years and years and years conserving things which were potentially less value than the things that I now was ripping out and throwing away, and that was so tough.
What do you think future conservators are going to be saving from our generation?
That's a good question. That's a good question.
They're going to be grappling with things, I tell you. They're going to be grappling, with things like, as we all have been, jute is a killer. For
what do you mean jute's a killer?
Jute's a killer for conservation. Oh. It ages terribly. Oh. So comparatively, 19th century and early 20th century furniture is in worse physical condition than some 18th century furniture, because that was made with linen and hemp, and those things last much longer. Whereas jute, which everybody uses now because it's lovely and cheap and good and strong when you put it on.
Is that the reason they changed? It's
cheap.
It's cheap.
Yeah, it grows quickly and it's cheap.
Yeah.
So, and the problems came because it coincided with the introduction of springs. So you've got this. I love talking about springs. So you've got this hunking.
I love listening to people talking about springs. Bring it on. Bring it on.
So you got this.
I think we're in good company.
Hunking great bit of metal with all its coils, which you then have to compress, and then put it in with some strings over the top and some jute at the bottom. And this poor spring, all it wants to do, it just wants to get back to free.
My true size.
We call it its free height. So it just wants to be free of its compression. And if you've got it supported on jute webbing with more jute and jute on the top, it's just going to go one way or the other.
We've seen it on the strip down.
In terms of conservation, though, if you've got a spring, like you pull it and it just retains its shape, it doesn't spring back. That means it's kind of lost its elasticity, I suppose?
Well, for conservation, it wouldn't be used, so it wouldn't really.
It wouldn't be used. Could it be used? I'm saying because it's not as if it's going to be functional. It's just
no. But for conservation, with my conservation hat on, I would
hijacking the point.
I would retain that spring down into the height that it needs to be. Yeah. So I would put strings or heavy duty strings up and down through the middle of the spring and on a slip knot, 3 or 4 per spring across the whole seat, and tie them all down so that the springs then come down, and then the seat comes down.
Right.
Because of course, if the middle of the seat is going up, the edges are coming in. So your stitched edge, which should be out here, is now in here because everything's going up. Mm-hmm. So you need to squash down the spring in the middle so that moves out and that comes down. I can't even remember the question you asked me, but now we're talking about springs.
No, but we were talking about springs
or something.
Talk amongst yourselves, it's fine.
So tell us about what you're doing these days. Are you working for yourself or are you?
Yeah, I am. So that's been since the pandemic, actually, which is a position I never thought I'd be in, because I can't think of anybody worse to run a business than me. I mean, it's totally chaotic, but I actually quite like it because I like the range of clients now. So when you've got institutional work, and you asked about the comparison with research and things, I love that level. I love that there's a curator who's got the background information. I love that there may be a bit of science involved. You stick something under a microscope or whatever. So I love that. And there's always a mount maker that you can ask to make metal brackets for you so that you can make these ingenious, non-intrusive things. So that's all very good. But there's nothing personal about that. There's no, and I'm not particularly, sensitive individual really, but so I don't need too many stories about Granny's armchair, but occasionally it is nice to have a little bit of a personal reason to do something which is a bit more meaningful than just so I run a little business, and I still do have institution clients that I've worked with over years.
Even you have to go on site, do you? And your work?
I do site work. There are conservators who generally prefer to work in their own studios just because you've got your own stuff around you and it's more efficient that way. But some organisations don't like to send their work out. They don't like their objects to leave.
No.
And I am willing to go there. I am willing. I mean, that sounds terrible, but I don't mind site work. It's quite nice. You just pack a toolbox and off you go. And if they're repeating clients, you get to know them as well. So you build up, little relationships with people, and that's quite fun to go back and make friends like that.
Sit on this.
Hey, it's a massive roll you're hugging.
This fresh Hessian just arrived from Martin's Upholstery Supplies, and yes, I'm emotionally attacked.
Well, that explains the grin. You do love a bit of 12 ounce.
Hey, don't knock it. It's the unsung hero. Holds my springs in place, neatens up my work, and smells like proper upholstery. I love the smell of 12 ounce in the morning.
Yeah, I actually ordered from Martin's last week. Foam, webbing, a few finishing bits. It all turned up in 2 days. No faff.
That's what I love. Whether you need a tin of glue or 10 metres of calico, it's all there, and it's all brilliant quality.
It's definitely my go-to for top-ups, especially when I realise I've run out of something mid-project.
Yeah, which is about every week.
Exactly. Martin saved me from full-blown panic attacks more times than I'd like to admit.
If you're setting up a workshop or just need the basics, Martin's has the lot. And as a special treat for our listeners, they're offering 5% discount on all foam and upholstery sundry orders. Just check the link in the show notes below and use the code SITONTHISMartins5 for your discount.
Martin's Upholstery Supplies. Solid, speedy, and always got your back.
Sit on that.
Is there someone in the room today that is thinking maybe they might move into conservation? What advice would you give them to kind of actually be able to make that side step into it?
I think for everybody, I think that it's about recognising and appreciating what is in front of you, us, me. It's pretty unhelpful to differentiate the two, isn't it? One person does conservation, everybody else does something else. That's not the case at all. But I think if you're interested in the heritage of a craft, then it should be kind of up to everybody really to keep what we have. And if you can figure out what's historically important or original, then try and keep it. So restitch it. So my advice to anybody who wants to be a conservator, start small and start just retaining as much as possible, really.
Wow. Okay.
Inevitably you're going to replace the webs, but why not keep the old web on there and then put the new one on the top? I mean, most people are taught to just get rid of the whole thing down to the frame. But what's the problem? The original one's not doing any harm by sitting there, and it's important and interesting to keep these things, because otherwise they're all going down the bin, aren't they?
I wouldn't do that as a upholsterer. I wouldn't do it.
That kind of leads into the question I was about to ask.
Do you do that? Do you
what, leave
the original and then staple?
No. That's just me. But Heather, what do you wish more upholsterers understood about conservation, even if they're not really going into that field?
Well, maybe I sort of answered that question in advance. That really. Keep more than less. Restitch an edge, and I love it. I love it as a conservator when I take a historically inaccurate cover off for a recover in a conservation context, and I found that some upholstery in the past has taken the original stitched edge off to put new webs on, and they've just put a new bit of jute on the top and restitched it badly. I mean, that's easy peasy for me, because I can just cut the new one out, put the original back. Job's a good one.
Wow. I didn't think of it like that, but it was
there's
a really antique piece.
Yeah, and there's a proportion to these original things as well. I spend too much time on social media, but it's interesting
Don't get me started.
to see.
I don't think you look at the same things.
No. That's a bit under the belt. That's a bit under the belt. I'll let that go. Go on.
So, but people sometimes it's like, oh, these springs are too big, I'm going to, use proper size ones. It's like, well, you've just removed the originals. So, I mean, that doesn't make much sense. Or, here's this dreadful, stuff in wood shavings or whatever, it's all rubbish. It's all got to go. It's like, that is an entire generation of upholstery being systematically removed from furniture, because everyone thinks that Edwardian furniture is rubbish.
Okay.
But it's not. It's a judgment call, isn't it?
Yes.
But it is what was done. And, it's lasted this long, and it's probably not
what that upholstery did at that particular point in time.
And it's probably not the wood shavings that have failed. It's probably the jute that's holding them up, because jute always fails.
Right, yeah. Wow.
So how to get into it? Yeah, start slow. Just sort of see what you've got.
I'm going to ask. I'm going to hijack this. I'm going to ask you a question.
Should we carry on?
Well, so, what's next for you, Heather? What do you hope your legacy, hopefully, in conservation and upholstery might be?
I don't know if I like the word. I don't know if I will like the word legacy.
Yeah. No? Okay.
That expects quite a lot, doesn't it?
Okay.
I think we're, as I say, between situations. So that whole generation of the people that I would have learned from, that had these institution jobs, have all gone through retirement.
Right.
And now there is kind of a bit of a kind of, oh dear, what happens next? Because the people that have taken those jobs are obviously not of that level. But then people who retire didn't start at that level either. They started down here and they worked up for 40 years. So, you can't expect new people to learn that, to know that much. So there has to be an up and down.
Well, that's the
level
same
of knowledge.
Yeah, it's the same with what we do. I mean, we just never stop learning, do you, as a upholsterer?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So now I think there is a kind of more of an international chat going on about the next phase of how to help people across the profession. And I think, there aren't that many employed people anymore. So it's not just a case of go in there to learn something. That opportunity isn't there. So it's a tricky one. There are more open.
Sorry, I'm going to cut across you. I'm just want to ask, have you got a book out?
No, I don't write. I don't write.
I don't know. I feel like there could be a book in you.
There's a book in there. There's a proper big storyline, conservation for 10-year-olds. Do you know what I mean?
There's a difference, isn't it? And I think I get the impression that that this discussion needs to come out of institutions only,
right,
and be much more basic across the trades and the crafts. I do think that is where we're at now, because the quantity of people just in this room and
it's just beautiful.
It's good,
I was expecting an empty room, and this is like amazing. Thank you all for coming. Anyway.
But the quantity of work that is being done by upholsterers is far in excess of what any institution can aim to do. They just don't have that quantity of people or object or project turnover.
So things are stacked up, waiting.
Yeah. So if there can be a bit more talk about the preservation of upholstery within training courses, I think that would be a good start. So that we can get past it must all be taken off and we must start again, which obviously when you're learning, you have to start again because you can't learn unless you do.
Yeah.
So you have to do that. But there is another way. And keeping things is another way of teaching upholstery, and have a bit more respect for the past, really.
Wonderful.
Well, thank you so much, Heather.
Yeah,
today.
Heather, this has been amazing.
I have really enjoyed talking with you.
I could sit here and listen to you for 8. Have we got is the coffee machine working? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I'll have a coffee.
Yeah, do you know what I mean?
We wanted to ask the audience if anybody's got any questions. We do have a Bluetooth
camera.
Microphone. So where's it gone?
Is it on the
there it is.
There it is. If anyone's willing to ask a few questions about...
Has any questions for Heather?
Or even us.
Or just general upholstery questions.
Don't be shy and coming forward. You're all going to end up on social media anyway, so it's all good.
You got to use a microphone for them.
Speaking to the mic, dear. Thank you. We all need to hear what you're saying. We're recording as well.
Sorry. When you were talking about trying to avoid using jute, in traditional upholstery, you might use linen as your top cover. What would you recommend using for your platform?
Linen.
Linen again?
Yeah. I would use linen web, which you can buy. It is manufactured. I had a chat to the Livedale rep very quickly earlier, who said he can source linen web, but nobody buys it, so they don't stock it. So buy the web, they will stock it.
What is it like? Is it in this, 5 centimetres wide? Is it like
it's just exactly the same.
Yeah, okay.
Just it costs an arm and an egg.
What are we talking? What are we talking? Because
the last time
it's about black and white is about £30 for a big roll.
Oh,
where
is
I
it?
am. Yeah.
Oh, well, I haven't bought any linen web for ages because I don't do a huge amount of straightforward upholstery.
Yeah.
But the last time I bought it was probably 70 plus VAT.
Yeah.
But whether I don't know what it costs.
Thank you for that wonderful question. Anyone else has got any other questions? Just anyone else?
Yeah.
Don't be shy, coming forward.
When you were talking about drawing the line between conserving and restarting, do you consider that based on the individual piece, or is there kind of a timeline where you go, okay, that's worth conserving and post that? Because I'm thinking 1950s stuff is kind of on there's things that you'd have like a passion for and things you want to retain. And so where would you draw the line on that?
Yeah, the conversation around retaining degraded foam is a whole nother subject that I just discreetly ignore because you need a conservator who specialises in modern materials to deal with those things. Very, very difficult conservation of foam. So let's not talk about those. I mean, that's very difficult. I mean, when they've all gone powdery or they've lost their, their resilience,
chemical composition.
You poke it and it doesn't spring back anymore.
Because I'm thinking like a Pantone type chair. Is it Pantone or Pantone? Where you got like a really thin layer. I've taken one apart from the 50s and it's just literally like rock and it just pops off.
Yeah. And for a museum, that you might get away with that because it just sort of sits there in its little shape.
Yeah,
but it's useless for a domestic interior. I mean, but we don't conserve absolutely everything. It's got to be either original or have historic significance, and those two things can be quite different. So if you've got an interior to a property, for example, you're in a historic house, a whole house might be interpreted to a particular period of time, which may not be the time that the object was made. So the historical significance of the upholstery that was made in that time is the important part.
Right.
And then any alterations that came afterwards. So then you might go back to your photograph documentation. So you're then asking your curator to come up with some pictures of what it looked like, if there are any, or descriptions or paintings, all those types of things. So there are lots of discussions around what to keep. But at the end of the day, it's like, even if you're doing something for somebody's house, you've got a vision in your mind of what are you going to have this thing look like at the end. And if you can reintegrate some of the things that were in there, if they're in reasonable condition, then I do. I mean, why not? It doesn't seem to me to the purpose of just changing something for the sake of it. I don't know if that answers your question, but
thank you for that. That was a good question.
I think we've got time for one more question at the back here, if that's okay.
And Robbie at the front as well.
Just wondering, so you've obviously got the linen versus jute kind of debate, but are there any other particularly hard-wearing or long-lasting materials that we could potentially bring into our upholstery nowadays?
Oh, I love that question. I love all these questions.
No, I don't think so. I mean, linen, horsehair, can't go wrong.
Wait, horsehair.
As long as it's been frozen.
Is there a particular type of horsehair that you would recommend?
No, I mean, I reuse quite a lot of the old stuff. If something's come out of a chair, I usually put it back in.
What?
Do you wash it, or do you card it? What do you do? Because I don't have a carding machine, so I don't have put it in a pillowcase.
You don't have a carding machine?
No, well, because I don't run a traditional upholstery workshop. No.
Okay.
So I sit in the garden and do it by hand. It takes forever.
Cool.
But I have been known to stuff it in a bucket of water. I mean, I don't shampoo it or anything like that. I was like,
I don't shampoo either.
I've got a student.
That's a step too far.
Totally
I've got a student that uses mane and tail shampoo for it. Yeah. She swears by that.
Yeah. But going back to that question, reuse of old
materials. Yeah, I mean, if it looks like it's got moth flying out of it, don't use it. But if you've got a chest freezer at home, put it in a plastic bag and stuff it in the freezer for a couple of weeks.
You don't want to see what's in my chest freezer at home.
With the fish fingers.
No, I'm kidding. I don't have a chest freezer. That's just in the movies.
Add it to your workshop. Right?
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah,
but there's a kind of, with sustainability, and this is a subject I know nothing about, and it'd be really interesting because you asked, what are conservators going to be looking at in the future?
Yeah,
and I think that's probably what we're going to be dealing with in the future is these new materials now which are coming in to replace the kind of nasty polyurethane foamy types, and so people phasing out the use of foams and introducing new alternatives.
Yeah.
But those are completely untested. They have no history of longevity. What are they going to end up doing, and when are they going to fall apart? And what who knows what we're going to be dealing with in the future?
Yeah.
At least hair has got a known quantity, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
It just sits there until you take it out, really. Yeah.
Can I I've got one more random question.
Yeah, I think we are timed up, so we have to, you might have to go extremely fast.
Okay, right. If you want to get into conserving conserving furniture, like if you were getting into upholstery, you have the basics of understanding how to set up a workshop space. What kind of environment, what kind of tips, things you would recommend people just getting into the craft do to their environment in order to successfully begin? What kind of, do they need to focus?
Do you mean, is it a difference to a normal workshop?
Yeah, that's what I mean. In terms of workshop environment, is there anything that a conservator needs to really think about or do?
No, but I think that the whole concept of if you really, really want to be a conservator, you do need conservation training.
Right.
I do actually.
But talking about the actual workshop environment itself.
Well, I've done conservation in wood shops, in textile studios at the V&A and everywhere in between. It's got to be clean.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be nice if it was clean.
Does it have to be dark?
That's your workshop
to
lighting.
Ultraviolet light and things like this getting in.
That is a good point, actually.
The natural light.
We don't like light, So you've got to have UV film.
On the other hand, an upholsterer, I love light because it helps me,
Well, we like light that we need to see what we're doing, but you put UV filmers at the windows and normally in some places, the conservation studios in the basement or in the roof. And if it's in the roof, the windows are all blacked out. So yes, light is not so good, but it's more if you want to be a conservator, I think you do need that kind of approach shift in your head rather than just sort of going at it and say, I'm going to do a bit of conservation here. Because I think that the point to leave you with is possibly that a conservator's primary importance is the object, whereas a crafts person maybe is coming at it from the primary importance is the skills needed to do this job.
Right.
And that is quite a difference, really.
Well, thank you so much, Heather.
Thank you, Heather.
Yeah, we really appreciate it.
Thank you, Heather, for sharing your journey with us from the teenage bedroom to world stage. I've loved hearing about all this. This has been amazing, and I'm sure you share that. And the secrets behind conservation upholstery. This has been the Sit on This podcast, ladies and gentlemen, and everyone in between. Thank you very much for listening. By the way, if people want to look you up and check out your work, where do they go?
Instagram is just about the only place I've got any presence.
Cool.
Heather Porter Upholstery.
Okay,
I think I've got about 9 posts because I'm not very good. I'm not very good at that either.
Hopefully not after this. Okay.
Yeah, one of them is about this podcast.
Yeah. Bless you. Well, thank you, Heather. Thank you all for listening, and thanks for coming today.
Sit on This